Welcome to the deep dive. Ready for something really important?
Oh, absolutely. Always up for a good deep dive.
Well, today, it's early childhood nutrition.
Great topic. Love it. So crucial, those early years.
Right. It's fascinating how much nutrition impacts their development.
Oh, totally. We're talking everything. How they grow, how they learn, their health overall.
I know. I was reading this study about nutrition and growth in children, and it really emphasized these first 1,000 days. Have you heard about that concept?
Oh, yeah. The first 1,000 days from conception to age 2. So important.
It's wild to think that's like the foundation for their whole health journey.
It really is. I mean, think about it. They go from a tiny little cell to a little human running around, talking, all in that short amount of time.
It's mind-blowing. So much growth, so much they need to power it all.
Absolutely. And nutrition is key to that.
So why are these first 1,000 days so crucial when we talk about food and what they eat?
Well, this study I mentioned on nutrition and growth in children, it highlights how much nutrition impacts their growth, like literally how tall they get.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and their brain development too. All during this window. It's like setting the stage for their physical and mental abilities for life.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's say a child doesn't get the right nutrition during those 1,000 days. What happens then?
Well, that's where things get a bit tricky. You see, their little bodies are working so hard to grow, so any gaps in those nutrients they need, they can really have a big impact, potentially even long-lasting consequences for their health and how well they're doing overall.
So we really want to make sure they get what they need right from the start.
Absolutely. It's an investment in their future.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about breastfeeding. It's often called the gold standard, but I was looking at some stats from UNICEF, and it turns out less than half of newborns globally are breastfed within that first hour of life. Why is that first hour so crucial?
Well, that first hour is when a mother produces colostrum. It's incredible stuff, packed with antibodies and nutrients, just what newborns need for their immune systems.
I've heard it called liquid gold.
That's a great way to put it. Delaying breastfeeding, even a little, means they might miss out on those vital components.
That makes sense. And then UNICEF and the World Health Organization, they recommend exclusively breastfeeding for the first 6 months and then continuing up to 2 years or even beyond.
Yep. And there's good reason for that longer time frame, too. You see, breast milk, it's perfectly designed to meet a baby's changing needs.
Oh, interesting. How so?
It provides all the nutrients, antibodies, enzymes, everything a baby needs to thrive. And it adapts as the baby grows. Plus, it's readily available, safe, and free.
Wow. Nature's pretty amazing.
It really is. Breastfeeding lowers the risk of deaths from childhood illnesses, strengthens their immune system, even supports brain development. Really remarkable stuff.
It's like nature's got it all figured out, provides everything a baby needs in one source. But of course, there comes a time when babies need more than breast milk. So when do we start introducing solid foods?
Great question. According to UNICEF, around 6 months old is a good time to start introducing those first bites.
Those first bites, that's a big transition.
It is, and it's important to do it right. We want to make sure babies are getting nutrient-rich meals, diverse too, and they need them frequently throughout the day.
Right, because they're growing so fast.
Exactly. They need a good amount of food to support that.
Okay, so picture this. A baby just starting on solids. What would a day of healthy eating look like?
All right, let's see. We could start their day with some iron-fortified cereal mixed with breast milk or formula, make it nice and smooth. Then mid-morning, how about a mashed banana or avocado?
Good for healthy fats and vitamins.
You got it. For lunch, maybe a puree of cooked veggies, carrots, sweet potatoes, that kind of thing. Lots of fiber and important nutrients.
Sounds delicious. And I'm guessing it's not just about putting the food in front of them, right? It's about the interaction.
Yeah.
Making mealtime enjoyable.
Absolutely. Mealtime should be a time for bonding. Caregivers should be engaged, responding to the baby's cues, using clean hands and dishes. It's all about making positive associations with food.
Makes sense. So we've talked about breastfeeding, starting solids. Seems like it should be going well for most babies.
You'd think so, but you know.
What?
UNICEF highlights that only 3 out of 5 infants under 6 months are exclusively breastfed, and then 1 in 3 children between 6 and 23 months don't get enough variety in their diet.
Oh, wow. That's a bit concerning.
It is. There are a lot of factors that contribute to these challenges. Sometimes children's diets are too high in grains, not enough fruits, veggies, and protein leads to an imbalance.
I know, and then there are those sugary drinks and processed snacks.
Everywhere these days, right?
It's tough. They're heavily marketed, unfortunately.
and they often replace more nutritious foods. Kids end up with a lot of empty calories, not enough of the good stuff.
That's a problem.
And on top of that, we can't forget that conflicts, disasters, things like that, they make it even harder for families to access good food, especially in vulnerable communities.
It's a complex situation, so many factors. I know UNICEF specifically mentioned vitamin A deficiency as a big issue.
Oh, absolutely. That's a serious one.
I learned it can weaken a child's immune system, increase their risk of blindness, can even be fatal because of common childhood illnesses.
Like diarrhea. It's a big concern.
So what can we do to address these kinds of deficiencies? What's being done to help?
Well, in areas where diets are poor and deficiencies are common, UNICEF is doing some great work. They support providing those important micronutrient supplements like vitamin A, deworming medication, and iron, all for children under 5.
Those can make a real difference.
They can protect children from some serious consequences. It's important work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to know there are organizations like UNICEF working on this. What can we do as individuals to help with this problem?
Well, advocating for integrating these services into routine healthcare for children, that's huge. Make sure they get the support they need.
It's crucial. So we've covered those first 1,000 days, the benefits of breastfeeding, starting solids, and then the challenges and solutions around nutritional deficiencies.
A lot of ground covered.
It makes me think about where children are exposed to food, their environments. What about creating healthy food environments for kids? What does that even mean?
It's a great point. Creating healthy food environments, it goes beyond just offering nutritious food at home.
Yeah.
It's about advocating for policies that make it easier for families to access affordable, good food and protecting children from less healthy options.
Okay, so what would those policies look like?
Well, imagine policies that encourage grocery stores to stock fresh produce in lower-income neighborhoods, or regulations on how unhealthy foods are marketed to children.
I see.
That kind of thing.
And I know UNICEF talked about shielding these policies from commercial influences.
Right. That's key.
Why is that so important?
Well, because the food industry, let's face it, they often prioritize profit over health. Their marketing, it can be really persuasive. Yeah. Especially to young children.
That's true. It's like that study we discussed, nutrition and growth in children, how socioeconomic factors and access to health care play a role.
Oh, absolutely. Those things make a huge difference.
It's a reminder that good nutrition, it's not just about individual choices. Yeah. It's about the bigger systems at play, the environment around us.
You've hit the nail on the head. We need to consider the wider context, how it influences choices. It's not just about what happens within a family.
It's about the bigger picture. So besides these policies, are there other things we can do? Other interventions that can help in those first 1,000 days?
Lots of things, actually. Nutritional counseling is a big one. Parents can get guidance on breastfeeding, starting solids, meal planning.
Makes sense.
Then there are education programs that teach families about nutrition and cooking. And of course, we can't forget about strategies to tackle food insecurity. Food banks, assistance programs, those are vital to ensure everyone has access.
So it takes a multifaceted approach.
It does. Lots of collaboration and commitment from different groups.
So even if a child's early years weren't perfect nutritionally, there's still hope.
Absolutely. There's this concept called catch-up growth. We'll dive into that a bit later, but it's really fascinating stuff. It means that even if a child has experienced slowed growth, they can still catch up and reach their full potential.
Wow, that's incredible. I can't wait to hear more about it.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more insights after a quick break.
We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
So we were talking about catch-up growth before the break.
Right. Catch-up growth.
It's pretty amazing, really.
It really is like a second chance for growth.
Exactly. And there's this study I want to tell you about from Abbott Nutrition. It was published in the Journal of Human Nutrition and Dietetics, and it showed that kids as old as 3 and 4 years old could still have significant catch-up growth.
3 and 4, that's amazing.
I know, right? Even at that age, they can still make big improvements.
So what helps that happen? What can parents and caregivers do to help?
Well, it really comes down to making sure they're getting balanced nutrition.
Okay, makes sense.
We're talking enough calories, of course, to fuel their growth, but also the right mix of those building blocks, those macronutrients.
The macronutrients like carbs, protein, and fat.
Yes, exactly. Those are like the bricks and mortar for a growing body.
And are there specific vitamins and minerals that are super important too?
Definitely things like iron, zinc, and vitamin D, those are crucial.
What are those to do exactly?
Well, iron, for example, it helps carry oxygen throughout the body for energy and development. Zinc is important for cell growth. and a healthy immune system.
Got it.
And then you have vitamin D, which helps the body absorb calcium, which we need for strong bones.
So much to think about to make sure kids are getting everything they need.
It's a lot, right? And I know some parents might be feeling a bit overwhelmed.
Totally understandable.
But there are some great resources out there.
Oh, good. Like what?
Abbott Nutrition has a couple that I really like.
Okay.
One is called Game On, soccer nutrition for kids.
So for young athletes.
Exactly. And then there's another one called Nutrition Education for Kids, which is more general.
Perfect.
Both give really practical tips for encouraging healthy eating habits.
We'll have to link those in the show notes so listeners can check them out.
Definitely a good idea.
All right, so we've talked about those first 1,000 days, breastfeeding, starting solids, creating those healthy food environments, addressing nutritional deficiencies, and now this amazing idea of catch-up growth.
It's a lot to take in, but it's all so important.
It really is. So what are the key takeaways here? What do we want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest one is that nutrition in those first 5 years of life is crucial.
It lays the groundwork for their whole future.
Exactly. It affects everything from their physical growth and development to their ability to learn and their immune system.
It's an investment in their lifelong health.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We've covered so much breastfeeding, introducing solids at the right time, those healthy food environments,
Right.
addressing nutritional deficiencies, and knowing that even if there have been challenges,
There's always that possibility of catch-up growth.
gives me hope.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's never too late to make positive changes and support a child's growth.
Every child deserves that opportunity.
Absolutely. And nutrition is a huge part of making it happen.
And even though we've learned so much today, I'm sure there's always more to learn.
Oh, for sure. This is a field that's constantly evolving.
So much research and new information coming out all the time.
Keep learning and find reliable sources.
Before we wrap up, though, I want to leave everyone with a thought-provoking question.
I like it. Go ahead.
What's one small change you can make today to support a child's healthy growth and development?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Could be swapping a sugary drink for water.
Or choosing a piece of fruit over a cookie.
Maybe reading a book about healthy eating with your kids.
Love it.
Or even just becoming more mindful as a family about the food choices you make.
Every little step counts.
Exactly. Those small changes add up.
And they can have a big impact.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into early childhood nutrition.
It's been my pleasure.
We hope you learned something new and feel empowered to make a difference in the lives of the little ones around you.
Remember, every bite counts.
Until next time, happy learning and happy growing. You know, as we wrap up, I've been thinking about how we focus a lot on the science of nutrition, the data, the studies.
Right, all those recommendations.
But there's another side to this that feels just as important, the human connection.
Oh, I like that. The human connection, yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, we've been talking about numbers and guidelines. But what about the joy of sharing a meal? Like as a family, the bond between parent and child during feeding.
Right, the traditions, cultural influences.
Exactly. Or even just the simple happiness of a child enjoying a good meal, something healthy and delicious.
You're so right. It's about so much more than just making sure they get all the right nutrients. We want them to have a good relationship with food. Enjoyment, nourishment, connection.
Exactly. Trying new things, exploring different flavors, understanding where food comes from. It's all part of it.
It really is. So as we finish up this deep dive, let's remember, it's not just about rules or hitting targets. It's about nourishing our children.
Nourishing them, body and soul.
Yes, with love and care. Appreciating good food, what it can do.
Beautifully said.